we'll be talking about the Wendigo, the flesh eater of the forests. In Minnesota's North Woods, the forests of the Great Lake region, and the central region of Canada are said to live a malevolent being called a Wendigo. This creature may appear as a monster with some human characteristics, or as a spirit who has possessed a human being and made them monstrous. It is historically associated with cannibalism, murder, insatiable greed, and cultural taboos against such behaviors, known by several names: Wendigo, Wittigo, Wittico, and Weetigo, each roughly translated to the evil spirits that devour mankind. This creature has long been known among the Algonquin, Aboriginal, Eastern Cree, Saltiux, Western Maine Swampy Cree, Nastapi, and Innu people. These have described them as giants, many times larger than human beings. Although descriptions can vary somewhat, common to all these cultures in the view that the Wendigo is a malevolent, cannibalistic, supernatural being strongly associated with winter, the north, coldness, famine, and starvation. The Algonquin legend described the creature as a giant with a heart of ice. Sometimes it is thought to be entirely made of ice. Its body is skeletal and deformed, with missing limbs and toes. The Algamboa describes it. It was a large creature as tall as a tree, with a lipless mouth and jagged teeth. Its breath was a strange hiss, its footprints full of blood, and it ate many men, women, or child who ventured into their territory, and those were the lucky ones. Sometimes the Wendigo chose to possess a person instead, and then the luckless individual became a Wendigo itself, hunting down those he has once loved and feasts upon their flesh. According to the legends, a Wendigo is created whenever a human resorts to cannibalism to survive. In the past, this occurred more often when Indians and settlers found themselves stranded in the bitter snows and ice of the northern woods. Sometimes stranded for days, survivors might have felt compelled to cannibalism the death of the survivors. Survivors might have felt compelled to cannibalize the death to survive. Other versions of the legend cite that a Wendigo might also possess humans who display extreme greed, gluttony, and excess. Thus, the myth served as a method of encouraging cooperation and moderation. Native American versions of this creature spoke of a gigantic spirit, often 15 feet tall, that has once been human but has been transformed into a creature by magic. Though the descriptions of the creature vary slightly, the Wendigo is generally said to have glowing eyes, long yellowish fangs, terrible claws, and overly long tongue. Sometimes they are described as having sallow, yellowish skin, and other times they are covered with matted hair. The creature is said to have several skills and powers, including stealth. It is a near perfect hunter, knows and uses every inch of its territory, and can control the weather through dark magic. They are also portrayed as simultaneously gluttonous and emaciated from starvation. Wendigos are said to be cursed to wander the land, eternally seeking to fulfill their voracious appetite for human flesh, and if there is nothing left to eat, it starves to death. The legend lends its name to the modern medical term Wendigo psychosis. Some psychiatrists consider it a syndrome that creates an intense craving for human flesh and the fear of becoming a cannibal. Ironically, this psychosis is people living around the Great Lakes of Canada in the United States, Wendigo psychosis usually develops in the winter in individuals isolated by heavy snow for long periods. The initial symptoms are poor appetite, nausea, and vomiting. Subsequently, the individual develops a delusion of being transformed into a Wendigo monster. People who have Wendigo psychosis increasingly see others around them as being edible. At the same time, they have an exaggerated fear of becoming a cannibal. The most common response when a person shows signs of Wendigo psychosis was a cure attempt by traditional native healers. In past cases, if these attempts failed and the possessed person begins to threaten those around them or to act violently or antisocially, they were executed. There have been reports regarding this psychosis dating back hundreds of years. In a 1661 Jesuit relation document states, "What caused us great concern with the intelligence that met us upon entering the lake, namely that the man deputed by our conductor to summon the nations to the North Sea and associated them rendezvous they were to await our coming, had met their death the previous winter. In a very strange matter, those poor men, according to the report, they were seized with an ailment unknown to us but not very unusual among the people we were seeking. They are afflicted with neither leucemia, hypochondria, nor freezing, but have a combination of all these species of disease, which affects their imagination and cause them a more than canny hunger. This makes them so ravenous for human flesh that they pounce upon women, children, and even upon men, like veritable werewolves, and devour them very aciously, without being able to appease or glut their appetite, ever seeking fresh prey, and the more greedily, the more they hunger. This ailment attacked our deputies, and as death is the sore remedy among those simple people for checking such acts of murder, they were slain in order to stay the course of their madness." Another documented case occurred in 1878 when a Plains Cree trapper from Alberta named Swift Runner suffered one of the worst cases. Swift Runner was a trader with the Hudson's Bay Company who was married and the father of 6 children. In 1875, he served as a guide for the Northwestern Mounted Police. During the winter of 1878 through the 79th, Swift Runner and his family were starving, along with numerous other Cree families. His eldest son was the first to die of starvation, and at that point, Swift Runner succumbed to Wendigo psychosis. Though emergency food supplies were available at the Hudson's Bay Company post some 25 miles away, he did not attempt to travel there. Instead, he killed the remaining members of the family and consumed them. He eventually confessed and was executed by authorities at the Fort Saskatchewan. Wendigo allegedly made several appearances near Roseau in northern Minnesota from the late 1800s through the 1920s. Each time it was reported, an unexpected death followed, and finally it was seen no more. Another well-known case involving Wendigo psychosis was that of Jack Fiddler, an OG Cree chief and medicine man known for his power after defeating Wendigos. Fiddler claimed to have defeated 14 Wendigos during his lifetime. Some of these creatures were said to have been sent by enemy shamans, and others were members of his band who have been taken with the insatiable, incurable desire to eat human flesh. In the later case, family members usually asked Fiddler to kill a very sick loved one before they turn Wendigo. Biller's brother, Pete Fletch, was killed after turning Wendigo when the food ran out on a trading expedition. Hudson's Bay Company trade, the Cree, and missionaries knew Wendigo legends, though they often explained it as mental illness or superstition. Regardless, several incidents of people turning Wendigo and eating human flesh are documented in the company's records. In 1907, the Canadian authorities arrest Fiddler and his brother Joseph for murder. Jack committed suicide, but Joseph was tried and sentenced to life in prison. Ultimately was granted a pardon, but died 3 days later in jail before receiving the news of this pardon. Among the Assinabone, the Cree, and the Abjawi, satirical ceremonial dance is sometimes performed during famine to reinforce the seriousness of Wendigo taboo. The frequency of Wendigo psychosis cases decreased sharply in the 20th century as the Native Americans came into greater and greater contact with Western ideologies. However, Wendigo creatures sightings are still reported, especially in northern Ontario near the Cave of the Wendigo and our Kenora, where traders have allegedly spotted it. Many still believe that the Wendigo roams the woods and the prairies of northern Minnesota and Canada. Many have given Kenora, Ontario, Canada, the title of Wendigo capital of the world. Sightings of the creature in this area have continued well into the new millennium. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you never miss out. I love you guys. I will see you in the next video. Stay safe.